Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to talk about school transportation. Now, if you watched my video about special education from a couple of weeks ago, you would know that I was included in regular education with supports from kindergarten till I graduated high school. The only time I was in special education was when I had study hall, where I took tests and needed accommodations. For some reason, my grade school owned and operated their own fleet of full-size buses, and wouldn't you know it, none of them had a freaking wheelchair lift. Not a single one. Instead, the school district subcontracted with a paratransit company to take me to and from school, but they operated accessible school buses. I rode the bus for an hour to the high school and back each morning, whereas my brother, Jason, walked up to the corner and had at most a 10-minute ride. My school was only 5 minutes away from my house, and I always got there late. Any time my class took a field trip, except for doing a little tour with the 5th grade course, the teachers carry me on and off the bus. Now, this was fine when I used a manual wheelchair, but once I started using a power chair, my independence was always limited. The administration's excuse for not buying an accessible bus was they don't want to lose seats. I believe it should be mandatory that every school district have a wheelchair accessible bus, even if it is a mini bus, if they provide transportation. It is already mandated by the Americans with Disabilities Act that they have lifts or ramps on buses, and they should be mandatory on every school bus. A student with a disability who uses a wheelchair can move into a school district and need accessible transportation. Even when I moved to Pennsylvania and the school chartered 2 buses for the 6th grade class trip to Washington, D.C., they did not get an accessible coach. The school just bought a mini bus to replace a white van that was way too short for me. I would not complain if we stayed at, say, the Holiday Inn Capitol on C Street where National Adapt stays. The Capitol and the Smithsonian Museums, where we spend most of the time, are in working distance. However, we stayed at a motel in Alexandria, Virginia, outside of D.C., so it was not 4 times that we got on and off. We rode that bus all week. My mom, who was my attendant, made the teachers carry me on and off the bus. I understand the teacher's job does not involve carrying you on and off the bus, but at the same time you have someone with a disability, and the head teacher had no idea about disability. In fact, when I went on a 34-hour trip with the Center for Disability Rights in Rochester, New York, I and many other people who use wheelchairs transferred into a seat, and they put my chair and other people's chairs in the luggage compartment. The key difference is they used the lift and allowed the people to transfer and not be carried onto the coach. However, the school district must think of all its students, not just those who are, quote, normal. In high school, I went on 2 field trips, one to tour the vocational technical school, and one to the Currier Show at Waynesburg College. Both times I stayed on my normal bus and rode it into town, dropping me off at the designated location, then coming back to get me when I was finished, or at 2:15 when the bus driver started her evening route. They did not allow me to go on my senior trip to Cedar Point Amusement Park, partly due to my behavior, or that what the administration said, but honestly it was because they did not want to deal with accessible transportation and to punish me for threatening to call the newspaper and adapt because my classmates want to walk because they did not want to build a ramp to the stage of graduation, which they ended up doing anyway. My family and I took a trip to Cedar Point later that summer. In college, one of the student-led organizations were selling tickets to Cirque du Soleil in Pittsburgh, and I wanted to go. They were also providing a bus to and from the show. Since it was a non-academic trip, the Office for Students with Disabilities said they could not help. However, a few days later, after they stopped selling tickets, they told me they found a wheelchair-accessible bus if I still wanted to go. I told them yes, and I paid for my ticket. On the night of the performance, my attendant and I got on the bus and had a great time. I also went to Kennywood with the Borough of California, completely separate from the college, and they didn't get an accessible bus, but that's okay. We could have found other means of transportation if we really wanted to. School transportation is essential for everybody. Nobody should be left out because the school failed to think about all its students. When I think about transportation, and especially accessible transportation, I can't help to think about ADAPT. Back in the early days when they used their chairs to block city buses and Greyhound because they just wanted to ride the bus like everybody else. I feel that all school buses should be accessible in America. No student should feel segregated because they have to ride a special bus. All students should be able to ride together with their peers. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I know that I keep asking you to subscribe, but it is so important that you do. That way I can grow and give you better content to watch. I'll see you soon.